This video is a film study focused at a very interesting yet physical and intelligent game plan that I think Zach Orr and the Ravens defensive staff put out there on Sunday against the Rams. It unfortunately occurred during a losing effort. We were outscored 17-3. Obviously, the Rams, put some things together offensively in the second half. I will cover the third quarter possession in a separate video, the one that puts the Rams up 10-3 and makes things very challenging for us fighting uphill. I think Zach Orr put guys in the right spot this week. I think that they had a game plan that both, it relied on Kyle Hamilton moving forward, but it also harkens back to the past. Basically, I'm going to sell you and try to give you some film illustrations that the Ravens used almost a carbon copy of the game plan that the New England Patriots did in their 13-3 win over the Rams in the Super Bowl, I believe at the end of the 2018 season. A lot of similarities there in that Hamilton is, super versatile. He can play moving forward. I think this is a great spot for him against teams like this. It was a very defined game plan, in my opinion, one that relied upon, the versatility of Alohi Gilman, Malachi Starks as well. We'll get the film started here, and I think I'm going to show 12 or 13 plays from the first half, and then I'll deal with the third quarter opening possession for the Rams that results in a touchdown in a separate standalone video. So I'll try to spot shadow all three of the safeties that were on the field. It's an 11 personnel structure for the Rams, so everyone's going to have three safeties on the field. But Hamilton will typically be in purple, Gilman in yellow, and then Starks in blue. Gilman was typically set to the boundary with Hamilton set to the field. A little bit of a snag flat concept here. Hamilton seemed locked in to me, prepared for what the Rams were going to offer. You can see he's pointing here to Wiggins. It's a short completion out in the flats. Hamilton is basically just, taking over the snag concept or the stop route by Davante Adams. We just played a better brand of football on defense. Is it a simpler offense to face? I can't say that. I mean, the Rams have so many intricate things that they do in terms of their run game. Stafford is so capable and talented. I think we put them on the back foot. I think that the game plan, putting a premier player like Hamilton up close to the line of scrimmage in the front, and then sometimes merging into a 6-1 look. That 6-1 look is what really triggered me to look back at the Patriots-Rams Super Bowl, and I did that finally Monday night. In addition, I think Buchanan is a Mike. I do not think he's a Will. I've been on record as saying I didn't like that draft pick. I don't think he's a guy that's really good in coverage. Simpson is a Will. Buchanan plays better as a Mike, certainly, and I'm not saying that Buchanan should start once Roquan Smith is healthy, but to reach the highest ceiling for Buchanan, for him to play at his best, he's a Mike linebacker. First possession still, it's a 3rd and 3. And so I really like this look. Again, Starks is blue, Gilman is yellow, Hamilton is purple. We're going to drop out Simpson and really just kind of jam Nacua out. So he's going to funnel Nacua to the safety. We're talking about right here, Simpson. And the Ravens did this multiple times in pass plays. Basically, they were looking to wall people or jam. We don't get that done up here. Van Noy is, a different player than Simpson. I really like the job that the Ravens did on some of these pass plays, getting hands on receivers, specifically Nacua. In compressed formations, the offense is almost kind of giving you an opportunity. So another thing to mention with Hamilton being the nickel defender, or the big nickel, if you want to say. It's obviously a conversion to Davante Adams over the middle. Once Simpson jams Nacua, maybe he's a little bit too deep because the line to gain here is, forgive me for that, the line to gain here is the -45. So easy completion for Adams, given his skill set and how great he is at catching the ball. But with Hamilton being the nickel set to the field, I just love the fact that we can do things like this. We can squat Marlon in the flats, sit him in the flats, and then roll the nickel to a half-field safety position. Not that we couldn't do that when Marlon was the nickel defender, but Hamilton is a safety. Hamilton is used to doing those things. I think these are nice looks, even though obviously in this case it didn't work out for the Ravens. Still on that first possession with the ball on the left hash, and typically Gilman was set into the boundary with Hamilton to the field. When the ball's in the middle of the field, it was slightly different there, but in any case, Starks pre-snap is in a one-high safety look. I love the violence that the Ravens used at times. They basically have created a 5-2 look here out of a nickel platform, which is unique to a certain extent. So here's Hamilton walked up. If you didn't know who that was, you'd say, okay, this is a 5-2 look, or 3-4, if you will. That's an OLB. That's an OLB, 2 inside linebackers, and then a strong safety rolled up. This is the reason why I'm so sold on this is that that's the exact defensive front that I pretty much played, or that I pretty much coached and created when I had the opportunity to coach in high school. This basically a lot of these schemes, a lot of these fronts looks gave the Rams severe problems in getting to Buchanan. He is totally unblocked on this play and at least one other that I'll present to you in this video. The Rams had difficulty blocking our fronts. Buchanan's here quickly. I think it's because of the alignment that we showed. I'm not a huge fan here, to be honest with you, but it's a really poor job of the Rams right tackle tight end handling this. Basically, you've got a 1 A-gap defending or A-gap D tackle and then a 6 technique. Normally, you'd have a 3. The Ravens kept the 3 away from the tight end in this case. And what it ends up doing is, they basically double Tavius Robinson, the wide receiver 88. This was a matchup that we could win, and I think it was strategic for the Ravens, basically putting Hamilton in position where 88 and Nacua had to block him often. And then here's Buchanan filling downhill, absolutely unblocked. Any linebacker pretty much is going to be able to get there and make that play. I thought he reacted well when his heels were capped, meaning he's coming forward and not expected to move backwards or laterally as much. Also, Travis Jones, really nice job, if you ask me, fighting through what is a single block technique from Avila, who looks like he's trying to hold for a moment, and then he lets go of it because Travis Jones fights through. This whole defense had more fight on Sunday. The film has actually made me more encouraged watching it because of A, the willingness to move Hamilton forward, and then B, how they were deploying him in a decisive manner. We got beat on play-action boot stuff. I think we've still got to handle that in a much better fashion. Still on that first possession, 1st and 10, we're up 3-0 at this point. So how violent we were with these guys against the run. So again, Hamilton to the field, Gilman in a 2-high safety alignment with Starks, who's in blue. Going to motion Nacua across. And look, if you pause this right at the snap, he's in the fullback position. I mean, you got the quarterback, a fullback, and then tailback. He's in a fullback position. So they ask a lot of him. Watch the funk that Humphrey and Gilman bring here on Nacua. They were fired up to get after him, I thought. And, he recognized it, I think, during the middle of the play that, there's 2 guys here to take me on. Simpson finishes this one with an attempt to punch the ball out. The first time I saw this live, I didn't like Simpson's approach. Simpson's very downhill here. But if you really think about it, out of 11 personnel, oftentimes the OLB, in this case Green, is responsible for the gap outside the tight end. And then let me pull this back because it'll be a little bit clearer. The gap inside between the tight end and the left tackle is often the responsibility of the boundary side safety. But in this case, it's Marlin and Gilman who basically double team or combo Nacua and blow the play up. Same play from the end zone angle. I'll give you. These are the gaps that I think you've got. And so once you get the end zone angle, you can kind of allow yourself to be like, okay, I was wrong in my interpretation of this during the game because Simpson clearly has this gap here. And then Gilman and Marlin are able to play that C gap between the tackle and the left side tight end. When you motion him across, I mean, that's a fullback spot. That's where he is. And I thought the Ravens really recognized some of these motions and said, okay, we're going to attack. The preparation here to me is way better than it has been in previous weeks. I know that the Rams dropped passes. I know that, we still gave up the touchdown in the third quarter. Look, if they don't convert the 4th and 2, we've got the football with a 3-3 game. And there's a different level of violence on film. I have no idea why we looked so much more decisive against an offense that can create so much more horizontal conflict. At minimum, we should allow ourselves to be excited a little bit with the fact that they used previous film. I think they came up with this game plan in the offseason, in my opinion. I suspect that Van Noy was probably involved since he, played in that game, the Patriots 13-3 win over the Rams. Like I said, I think it's after the 2018 season. In any case, we certainly didn't handle everything well. This is an illustration of that. So still on the first possession, 2nd and 7. Play action boot down here. Interesting way that Wiggins releases this, and we're in a 1-high look. Starks is the middle of the field free safety, at least pre-snap, with Hamilton set to the field. There's nobody on quarterback here as Stafford boots out to the top side. There's nobody on quarterback at all. There's nobody on the tight end either. quite honestly, live, I thought, okay, what is Starks doing? But watch the way that Wiggins releases Adams on this like underneath drag across the field. It's a flood concept. It's play action flood. We should do more of this, especially if we can continue to get Derrick Henry going, on outside zone type concepts. So I initially thought, okay, this is Starks' fault, but let's do this from a trickle down or trickle out standpoint. Ojabo walks way too far down inside here, in my opinion, and he can't redirect to go get Stafford. So, number one, Stafford's totally clean throwing platform. I don't know that Marlon has any good decision here, in my opinion. I'd like to see Starks over here, but I don't have any idea what the call was and how we, should have reacted. So, I don't know who to apply blame for. All I know is there's, nobody on quarterback, nobody on the corner route. Marlon is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. So Gilman is reacting to the run action to his right, our left on the screen. So you can see everyone moving in this direction for the Rams. Again, we should be doing more of this if you ask me, even when Lamar comes back. We're not a spread football team with this offensive line. We shouldn't be setting up to pass pro 35 times out of the shotgun. But here's Ojabo just carrying this way too far inside with 88, the wide receiver. And you can see that just opens up the edge entirely. Hamilton is put in conflict. Tight end wide open on this corner route. So, there's got to be a better way to defend it. Marlon was checking up on Nacua, the flat route. And then Starks obviously late getting over here. Again, I don't know who to apply blame for. But one of the situations that, didn't work out for us was play action boot. Moving forward to the second possession after they, of course, missed their field goal, clangs off the right upright. So ball is on the right hash, and here's Hamilton, and this is the look that I think they took from the Patriots, or one of the things they took from the Patriots. So Hamilton has basically walked up as an OLB. One more time. Earlier it was a 5-2, I called it, or 3-4, if you will. Now it's a 6-1. So when I say 6-1 is 6 players here, 1 inside linebacker. If you remember in that Super Bowl, at the beginning of the game, this was initially Dante Hightower. And then the Patriots suffered an injury. I can't exactly remember who it was, maybe early third quarter, and they just moved Hightower up to the outside linebacker position. That's how great of a player he was, is that he could fulfill 2 roles in the same game plan. But what I love about this, same concept into the boundary that they ran earlier on that 3rd and 3. Basically, Nacua on a deeper in cut, and then Adams a shallow in. But we're getting hands on people. So we're getting hands on people here with Simpson. We're getting hands on the tight end here with Hamilton. And you can see that's where Stafford looked initially. So 2 things happen up there into the boundary by Simpson jamming from inside out leverage. Not only can he get hands on the guy, but now as he moves out into the flats, he can see number 1 because he's got his back to the quarterback and his eyes to the outside. We shouldn't do this every play, but this is just a nice little adaptation to be able to get hands on the receiver, in this case, Nacua, and Stafford's looking up there. The window is not there to Adams the same way it was on the 3rd and 3 that I showed you. And also Hamilton is settling underneath 88. That's a mismatch in our favor in terms of Hamilton trying to cover him. This is, of course, the strip sack by Jenkins. I'll rewind this one more time and let you see Hamilton jam the tight end at the bottom. Hopefully the playback isn't too ragged for you guys, or jagged, I guess. I've got a little timeline at the bottom that can drag forward, slowly somewhat. It's a great program that I use. I actually might get the opportunity to maybe kind of promote their product, which will be great because I've been looking, for some type of sponsorship opportunities as the channel grows. So moving forward to the 3rd possession, we're still up 3-0. Of course, after that Jenkins strip sack, and it's a 1st and 10. And so Hamilton here on a blitz, and we step Green out. You normally don't want to do that with a defensive lineman, but we step him out, and then Hamilton fills that gap inside. I thought Jenkins and Jones played well together. Okoye had a couple of good reps as well. Jones looked very healthy. Look how active he is here. Stabbing, and then he's folding over the top to the other side. And he's the first guy who makes contact downhill. Hamilton just basically ends up occupying the right tackle, but he disrupts Kyron Williams' path. I thought we totally shut down their run game, to be honest with you. They were 74 or 76 yards on 23 carries. I will show you one big one that they had on a 2nd and 7. 2nd and long continues to, I think, plague this defense from the standpoint of our run defense. We have trouble. We have had trouble all year, dating back to the Lions game, stopping the run on 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10. But in any case, it makes it an easy read for Simpson because I believe we step Jenkins across and then Jones will stab and then fold over the top. Almost looks like it could be pre-planned the way that it works out, but it really makes Simpson's read rather easy. Just folding or stepping over the tackle, allowing him to get to the ball. And we have requisite bodies there. Normally, and in fact, in 2023, they ran the ball well against us on duo stuff, and the Lions certainly beat us up on duo and 2nd and long situations. That did not happen against this Rams offensive line. We were prepared, I thought, for their schemes. And that's why I'm so willing to give Orr and the defensive staff more credit than obviously we've been able to so far in 2025. This is one that I'm pretty sure Zach Orr, the entire defensive staff would like to have back. It's a very poor look on a 2nd and 7 for us. I'm not just talking about the fact that we're in dime. Here's Hamilton. He's now the dime linebacker to the boundary. Marlon has shifted from outside corner to be in the nickel set to the field. Gilman down to the boundary, Starks to the field. It's a 2nd and 7. It's a poor look by our defensive line. We have overcompensated to one side. So we've kicked our 2 D tackles to one side, and I think Van Noy's caught in no man's land here. In addition, Tampa, late to fill, probably in my opinion. From a gap perspective, Hamilton is inside here. Buchanan is inside, which I think is probably his gap. But unfortunately, Van Noy is caught with basically a huge lane to the inside. He's supposed to hold the edge. If he does, Kyron Williams is obviously running downhill, and Gilman probably is able to make the tackle, 7, 8, 9-yard gain. But Kyron Williams is talented. We just can't assume we're going to make the tackle. Excuse me, this is Blake Corum. He's talented as well. So he bounces it outside. To me, Tampa's got to be a little bit better in terms of his angle. Really ends up, folding himself inside. Nakua is going to block the safety, Gilman, like I said, and I think Tampa gets caught too far inside. Van Noy folds inside. He ducks inside. I kind of almost don't really want to blame him because we're put in a poor position. I don't think that this call does our players any favors at all. And so here's what I mean. It's a 2nd and 7. Look, the Lions started this, okay? Running the ball against us on 2nd and 8, 2nd and 9, oftentimes out of 12 personnel. We are assuming that teams are going to throw in this situation. They oftentimes do, right? That's what the NFL numbers indicate, and probably the Rams as well. I don't know the data. I don't have access to that. I wish. But we've got a 2-gap bubble. So we've got an A-gap and B-gap bubble pre-snap. That's just never good, at least from what I was taught. And so when they motion the tight end back, he'll basically step to Van Noy. The tackle takes over Hamilton on the blitz. The guard works up to Buchanan. So, I think we end up basically where we're supposed to be gap-wise, but we just had a 2-gap bubble. There was 2 gaps for Hamilton to deal with. The boundary side safety, Gilman, is going to get blocked by Nakua. Tampa takes a bad angle. Van Noy ducks inside. I mean, can you blame him? There's a huge lane here for the running back Corum to go to. We continue to get beat here on these 2nd and long situations, not necessarily giving up a ton of yards, but oftentimes when Detroit did it, their 2nd and 9 would become a 3rd and 1 or a 3rd and 2. The Rams, that's probably what the Rams were going for here. Let's create a manageable 3rd down. And then they were fortunate to get the 1st down on that exact carry when Corum pounces it. Still onto this 3rd possession, 2nd and 9. So we've stopped the run on the first play. I think it was a 1-yard gain by Kyron Williams, who comes out of the game on the next snap. We're in our nickel now, and there's going to be a little bit of a delay drag across, basically play action. Simpson with a really nice pass defense over the middle. You can see the play action between Stafford and Corum. Blitz by Buchanan occupies the running back, and that kind of opens up this part of the field for the tight end to run onto. And Simpson's got it covered. He's a will. Simpson is a will linebacker. He's not a Mike. And conversely, I don't think Buchanan is a will. I don't think his coverage skills, he wouldn't make this play, and this is the difference between them. He's a Mike, in my opinion, put in the best position for him. Buchanan is a Mike. Simpson is way smoother and has quicker reactions as a will linebacker in coverage. So from the end zone angle, the same play, just to illustrate that we're in our nickel 4-2-5, which is appropriate. It's typical against 11 personnel. So 4 defensive linemen or 2 D tackles, 2 OLBs, and then 2 inside linebackers. So here's Simpson. He's going to react to the tight end running across, trying to get to that open space that's vacated by Buchanan on the blitz, who's very violent. He kind of airplanes a little bit with his right hand when he's running full speed. It's almost all the time. But in any case, really nice play by Simpson over the middle, in my opinion. Stafford some pressure on a 5-man blitz structure from Orr. I feel like we had a good idea of how to attack them, especially early. It was after this possession to me that I felt like Mcvay recognized some of the things we were doing against their under center run game, and this is the play that I suspect probably revealed it to him in a more obvious fashion. So we're set up in a 6-1. Simpson, from his inside linebacker position, his will linebacker into the boundary, walks up as an OLB, edge defender. And then here is Hamilton. Quite obviously, we've created a 6-1 against 11 personnel. That's the exact look the Patriots gave them, whether it was 11 personnel or 12 back in that Super Bowl. The Patriots had the same look in fact, in that Super Bowl, with this being another inside linebacker, outside linebacker hybrid, a Van Noy type. In fact, Van Noy did play in that game. He had 4 tackles. But they also had the same look with one of their safeties. I think it was Chung walking up to play that position. But the Rams really struggled to block this. What did it do? It left the Mike linebacker, Buchanan, totally unblocked on so many of these run concepts. And then in addition, on the motion, we're folding Gilman over. So we have a third layer or third level of the defense. We totally annihilated this matchup, meaning Hamilton against Nakua, a tight end, or this is the wide receiver, 88, I think, Whittington. We swarmed them. You'll get a better idea of the look. It really kept the Mike clean, and the Rams struggled with it mightily. There's a lot going on here, and the reason why I'm convinced that we got this from the Patriots is not just the look. Hamilton, Simpson, let's call them, mirrored outside linebackers, and then the lone or solo inside linebacker. But it's because oftentimes to the tight end, the Patriots in that Super Bowl were taking their 3 techniques and stunting or pinching to the inside so that the Mike could flow over the top. And really, that's what happens here. They step the tackle out because of the edge defender, because of Hamilton's presence. Simpson folds in from behind on the backside. So the play action boot, here, if Stafford keeps it, could have given us trouble, absolutely. But you can see the benefit, the benefit for the Ravens is Buchanan totally unblocked at the point of attack, Hamilton winning, Simpson closing down from the backside. I thought it was a brilliant game plan, that 6-1 look. I'm familiar with this dynamic, and I suspect this may have occurred in the game plan. And I don't mean the 6-1 look, but what I'm going to describe to you is, as a defensive coordinator, defensive staff, coming up with a game plan, thinking or believing or maybe even knowing that it's going to work, but saying, how often can we use this before it becomes so obvious to them, the opposing team calling plays, that this is working and we can prevent them from running the ball at all? Basically, what I'm trying to describe is a balance as the defensive coordinator or the defensive staff, meaning I don't want to show this so often early that we can't prolong our ability to use it. So think of it like nibbling on your food as opposed to eating it all instantly as soon as your food arrives on the plate. So I don't know if any of these discussions, actually occurred, but I'm trying to describe to you the way that I suspect we may have ebbed and flowed in and out of that 6-1 look. I think after this possession, after that third possession, where they tied it up at 3-all, is when the Rams decided to go some more shotgun and throw the ball. And I will separate my analysis into another video that hopefully I can get out Tuesday night on the third possession when the Rams were able to go down and score that touchdown to go up 10-3. I recognize that, our defense has really struggled this year. We, in the offseason, I created myself and a couple of other people created what's called a TOR metric. Some of you may have watched the video in the offseason. The Ravens TOR, which is basically a 0 to 100 score for the season, defensive allow was like a 76, so really poor. This was the best game of the year for using that metric. The Rams had a 33. So that's far better than even our TOR score against the Browns, or TOR allowed, I should say, against the Browns, which was a 49. By the way, the Lions, when they came to Baltimore and won, their score was 100. Kansas City's was a 73, and Houston last week was a 91. By comparison, the Rams were at 33 this week. I'll give you two more plays here. I think the Ravens are able to get a stop on this fourth possession, and then of course that sets up the unfortunate ending for our offense down inside the goal line, inside the 5, where we're unable to score. So fourth possession, like I said, 1st and 10. And so here's Gilman on the left into the boundary. Starks to the field. Hamilton set up as the nickel. The Rams are running snag smash. I think they went into more spread mode. I mean, they can do this, right? Stafford can execute anything. So you got the smash route, flat route by Whittington, the inside receiver. And then I think this is Adams running the snag, which is basically an angled hook at like 5 to 6. Starks downhill because we're dropping into a cover 3. Basically what a lot of people would refer to as a cover 3 buzz. So 4 underneath droppers, cover 3. Oftentimes we play, man to the backside of our cover 3. Basically, same thing the Seattle Seahawks do with Josh Jobe. Now, ball is out quick against a 4-man rush scheme from Stafford. One of the better plays from Starks, who I think Starks has been, I don't want to say overwhelmed, but there's been such an abstract nature to our calls. There's such a wide net or wide umbrella of our defensive calls. To me, this game seemed to whittle it down or chop it down into a more manageable size or subset of coverage schemes. And I thought Starks responded well. Obviously, he got beat across his face by Adams earlier in the game on their first possession, that could have resulted in a touchdown. So still on that fourth possession, 2nd and 6. This will be the last play that I show you. We're not in a 6-1, but I think it illustrates the impact that Hamilton had here as a nickel defender who could, essentially be an inside linebacker at times. He's set up to the tight end side. And again, it's that matchup, him against 88. Absolutely overwhelming. 88, whether that was Nakua or anyone, in fact, they're certainly not going to ask Devontae Adams to block like this, or Tutu Atwell, if he had played. So that smart game planning, if you ask me, by the Ravens, and that they identified a player that we have, a Superman, basically, Hamilton, up into the box. Can we repeat this game plan every week? I don't know, but this was and that's, I think, what makes the late second quarter misfire, basically not getting Henry the ball at least twice, 2 or 3 times on outside zone concepts. It makes it so disappointing. The Rams were there to be had. I think we caught them by surprise. I do not think they were prepared for that same type of look. If you recall, prior to that Super Bowl, seeing Mcvay, who had a great offense, he's got a great scheme. I've spent a lot of time trying to study it and understand it. By no means am I an expert, but I did 2 long or lengthy film study videos on the Rams after the 2023 season. More than welcome to check those out if you enjoy it, or if you enjoy my content, number one. Number two, if you would like to hear what I have to say about the offense and how much respect I have for it. But I remember before that Super Bowl seeing Mcvay say, I wonder what they're going to come out in. I just can't wait to see what he comes out in. To me, I think McVay knows that if you stay in a base nickel 4-2-5 platform and you don't get that nickel DB and or another safety involved in the run game, you just don't have requisite numbers to stop the run consistently. The Ravens did, and not only did they have requisite numbers, one of those guys is a superstar in Kyle Hamilton. I want to give credit to the Ravens staff for looking so far back. Again, I suspect they came up with this game plan in the offseason. It's typically what you do for early season games. Now, there is also something to be said. That's what makes our failures on defense so frustrating, and that we had the whole offseason to focus on the Bills. We had the whole offseason to talk about the Lions, even though they've got a different offensive coordinator. They still got the same players running the same scheme. The Chiefs, the Texans, to a certain extent. In my opinion, they installed some of these looks and these reactions in July and August to familiarize the players with the scheme. Now, the wild card there is we just picked up Gilman and C.J. Gardner-Johnson last week. I thought Gilman played well. He allows for some of this versatility, seems very reliable and adjustable, certainly communicating a lot pre-snap. The Rams, I don't think, were expecting this look. Hamilton is a big piece. Humphrey is a big piece as well with his versatility, right? He makes it go. He can be an outside corner on one snap and then move to the nickel on the next. So a credit to Orr and the staff they put players in position to succeed and compete more often this week than in previous games. It didn't work in the end, right? The Rams open to score to open the third quarter, I should say, to score a touchdown, go up 10-3. Like I said, I'll chronicle that drive in a separate piece of content. 9 plays, 76 yards. They had the critical 4th and 2 conversion to Kyron Williams against Simpson. We only rushed 2, so that's disappointing. I thought Simpson played well. We put him and Buchanan in, I don't want to say simplistic, but more direct, narrow job assignments. That 6-1 look was masterful usage. I get it. People are going to talk about the Stafford misses, the drops, if you will, and that certainly played a factor. But look, Stafford's not infallible. And when your offense is put on the back foot by a look that maybe you didn't expect, that can happen. As negative as I've been on the defense, this was a good approach. It was clear. People had defined roles. Don't know if we can recreate this every week because not every offense is the same as the Rams. We'll face the Bears in a couple of weeks at home, who are kind of like, their own entity under Ben Johnson. Less ambiguity here for the players, and I think they played more decisively. I have some guesses as to where the game plan came from. I mean, Vanoy was, of course, on that team that beat McVay and the Rams. We really struggled with the Rams scheme in 2023. We just ran our defense in 2023. There's a lot of interesting parallels. My suspicion is that they really went back and looked at the film and may have even talked to or contacted some Patriots coaches who were around at that time. But in any case, you're more than welcome to disagree with me on that. We'll see moving forward. Maybe other teams try to recreate it a little bit. Seattle plays the Rams twice, obviously, in their division. The 49ers, Houston, and the Ravens, now 3 teams, have held the Rams' rushing attack to less than 80 yards in each game 3 times so far this season. I don't know that the 49ers or Houston did any of this stuff to them, but moving forward for us, having Hamilton up near the box, I think, is a smart move, especially if Roquan's going to be out for an extended period of time, because it's another smart, experienced football player who can try to get people in the right spot. And I really feel like Buchanan is overwhelmed in that role right now. To me, it looked like, this week at least, it looked like less communication responsibility for Buchanan pre-snap, even though he's the mic. To me, I thought Hamilton, Gilman, and Starks were the guys getting us in the right look, generally on a snap-by-snap basis. You're more than welcome to let me know what you enjoyed about this film study video, if anything, the plays I tried to use to illustrate how similar this game plan looks to me. I actually went back and watched the first half of the Rams Patriots Super Bowl to just look at their 6-1 look, and it's super similar in my opinion. If you think other Ravens fans would enjoy this film study analysis of the Ravens defense and their Week 6 loss to the Rams, then please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media to help this content get more reach.